Hey, welcome back to the channel. All right, it is time to finally finish up the top 10s that we've been doing semi-annually. We did most of them in the month of June, and then just so many things happened that there's other videos that took precedent, but now it is time to finally do the top 20 champions in MCoC. This will be coming out in July, but I think it'll be still worthwhile, fun, and something we can learn from, and it forces me to crystallize my thoughts. Now, as usual, if you've been watching all these top 10s, you know I poll my Discord server. Everyone on there gets to vote. People with roles of honor or have a lot of activity, also honorable roles, get to suggest their own champions, and they end up making the list. In this case, they made some suggestions, and I'm glad they did. I will go over their list, but then I will give you mine, and then I will talk about my champions. That was a request that was made in December of last year, and everyone seems to have been enjoying it. This is a really great exercise. Also, top 20. This would take forever. This would be an extremely long video if we did all 20. And so here's what I have done. Also, this helps with how to actually measure this, right? When you ask champ people, what are the best champions in MCoC? I feel like it's often difficult because we have these champions I call broken, right? And the way I'm using it is like they're actually probably difficult for the designers, the quest designers, and those sorts of things. And then as a result, they're often difficult to rank. And I'll give you the list of who they are because they deserve to be up here. They're clearly within the best. It's just how are you calculating that? How are you talking about that? And I want you to know that they're going to be in this video. And then we're going to go over what's essentially like the top 15 or so. So the broken, Nick Fury. I know a lot of you enjoyed my ranking where I put him in the skill list. Yes, if it's just one fight, particularly like in Battlegrounds or something like that with his defensive capabilities, I recognize he likely is maybe even the best skill champion. I just have my issues. We laid those all out in the skill video. The next one would be Ghost, right? You know, the way she handles debuffs, her phasing, her power gain, the immense damage, the way she works with power backs, the variety of nodes and things she can take. She's great for Rintra and Battlegrounds, like things that just don't even make sense. Hercules, do we really need to talk about it more? You've heard my Hercules spiel. I think we all realize I enjoy playing Hercules. I enjoy saving items. I recently took mine up to rank 5. I think if we had to list the best champion in all of this, it's probably him. Human Torch. Yes, if you're going up against a mixer or someone who's doing energy damage, he is phenomenal, particularly if you can put on his Nova Flame pre-fight. In a lot of those matchups, you're able to get to Nova Flame eventually anyway. But the Nova Flame pre-fight is what's making him so dominant in Battlegrounds and helping him take down so many matches he doesn't even make sense for, and doing it so very, very quickly. Dr. Doom, I know he's one that probably people are like, wait, why is he on there? When you think about the fact that he can just take over a match, even sometimes if they're stun immune, and you just get into that Doom cycle and there's literally nothing that can be done. Additionally, he has outrageous stats with his armor, penetration, and also his crit resistance. All of those make for a very difficult champion to fight. They make a very difficult champion to die with. And he's phenomenal at the Doom cycle right after the SP3, and then the power was, I think it's a power steal, the unblockable special 2. There's even fights you can take him with where you can't even incinerate the opponent. He's just a dominant champion, and like in general, he's broken. It's a little bit different than like this single fight issue with Fury and I think the absurd highs of Ghost, and then the Nova Flame of Human Torch. But he fits his own sort of broken, in my opinion. Archangel, if they can be bled and they can be poisoned, he just literally turns everything off. Like everything. Okay. Red Magneto, we talked about this in the Mutant video and why I didn't have him that highly ranked, and I've talked about this in my best 6 stars to rank 5. I feel like we're just not being asked to do the thing against metal as much, and also the Cosmic class has had a tremendous buff as far as the champions that have come out. It's very top heavy. Hercules, Hulkling, Gallon, right? And then if you start to throw in like Cosmic Ghost Rider and things like that, that are taking those fights that you would often want to use with Red Magneto and those metal fights, and then you can also use them elsewhere in questing and do a ton of things. So I think he's the least valuable of all of these, and least likely for you to see me rank up. But I have to admit and have to put him in this broken tier in the metal champions and metal matchups. He's obviously there, and so you can see a person saying like, well, statistically this many champions are metal, and I can't say that they're wrong. I'm just saying I don't think he's worth trying to rank in the rest of this because they just so many outliers of the fights he can take. And then the last one's Kitty Pryde. We've talked about Kitty Pryde at length on this channel, and while I enjoy playing her and I enjoy playing with all her synergies, I enjoy powerful champions. Don't get me wrong. I recognize how difficult it must be to design counters. I mean, like, you'd think her counter should be a champion that handles miss, and then that actually like helps her somehow. The absurdity of when, what was it, like the True Sense was on the mini boss island in War, and what she was doing, that she made an absolute mockery of it. There's often, when really tough fights like Eternity of Pain and Summer of Pain came out, there were fights that she could just flat out cheese. None of this is surprising, and that just kind of makes her, she's not an overpowered champion. She's not a powerful champion. Like, in many ways, she's actually broken. And again, makes it very difficult to rank the rest of the champions when you have this one that has these outrageous highs in some fights. That being said, I recognize that these are some of the best champions in the game and often worth ranking up. Okay, and then we're going to very quickly go over my servers list of the honorable mentions, and I'm going to go over mine. I'm going to do something a little unique with that, and I'm going to carry it throughout my rankings. I do think it'll be helpful. It's fun to talk about. My servers honorable mentions were the Hood, Overseer, Quicksilver, Punisher 99, Omega Red, Zemo, Hyperion, Mr. Fantastic, Titania, and Bishop. Okay, those are my servers honorable mentions. Now mine, in no particular order, was Shang-Chi, and here's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to kind of talk to you about this with all of my rankings, is do I feel like they're increasing in value, and in the next time we do this video, you may see them higher up? Do I feel like they're stable, or do I feel like they're actually moving down? I like making those predictions, and I like giving that information. Shang-Chi, I think, is very stable. I think he's very stable. Omega Sentinel, I think she is actually moving down as good as I think she is. There's some new powerful tech champions coming out. I think she has a lot of utility in her, I can't think what they're called, but the debuffs that she can put on, it just feels like we're being asked less to do all of them, if we ever even were. Her nullification immunity, I think, will keep her relevant for an extremely long time, but tech has been interesting, and I feel like Kabam's putting in some work into making it better, and it does need to get better to catch up to the rest of the classes, in my opinion. Future Ant-Man, his stock is definitely on the rise. Warlock is steady. The Hood, steady. Overseer, steady. Spot, I think, going up, but I think mainly that's because people enjoy playing him. I think they very much enjoy playing him, and then he's going to be coming out as a 7-star, and that will probably increase the prestige of the champion, their reputation, those sorts of things. Baron Zemo, the stock, I think, is going up after a bit of a dip. I think he came out, there's so many outrageous highs, and they were not cheese fights. I think these were fights that were actually very much designed for him to be powerful, and that were the ones you did not see right off of the bat. And I think that he then kind of went back down because there was a bit of a whiplash from that, or a backlash, and then I think he's going back up. He's a very good champion and deserving of honorable mention. Hyperion is steady. At this point in his longevity, it is amazing that he's still this highly rated. Very, very steady. Null, steady. I think people recognize how good he is. That's why he won the 7-star vote. Mr. Fantastic, steady. Spider-Man 99, steady. I wish he was higher, but science has gotten very strong. Kathy Lang, I can tell the community has caught on to how strong she is. I love her. There's two main issues with her. They're not even issues. They're just where you're not going to be able to use her. But in Battlegrounds and in War, a lot of these modes where these things are happening, these high-intensity matchups, she struggles where pacing could be a problem, right? We've talked about that, and you're seeing that, I think, in the Gladiator circuit that's currently going on, where you're not seeing as much Cassie Lang. She was able to be made worthwhile or used by players like Bitter Steel. I've talked to him about this. He was still using his Cassie in the victory track, where a player more of my skill level removed her. I had better options, and also it was just a little bit of a struggle with her with the Unstoppable. So pacing can bother her. And then, of course, when she's facing skill champions that are shrugging her debuffs, it's going to be a problem. That can be nodes as well. And then we get on to Captain America Infinity War. I do think his stock is moving down. It's not because he's not great and he's not good. He's both of those things, and he's extremely versatile. It's because the science class around him and what we're being asked to do as science champions has grown, has gotten significantly larger and significantly better. And so while he can do so many of these things very, very well, we're more often asked, or it's more, I think it's more beneficial for players playing the game the way I am, to rank up these 2 or 3 other science champions who might not be able to do all of the things he can, but they can do 1 or 2 or 3 or even a different thing superior to him. And that feels like we're often being asked to do that in these highly competitive modes. But he's still excellent. Bishop, I have him as steady, and Shuri. She's going up. Would not be shocked to see her in what is essentially my top 15 when we do this in December. A lot of that'll have to do with modes have come out or the development of that, and then also what's if there's more tech champions, more powerful tech champions coming out as we go. All right, let's go and get to the number 15, right? We'll do 15 through 11 here. We've talked about the broken, we've talked about the honorable mention. My server's number 15 was actually, and it was a perfect tie. It literally was a perfect tie in a thing where we had the top Vega at 146 points. Number 15 was a tie, so I'll mention them both. It was Gallon and Warlock, each coming in with 14 votes. Shows you what a big gap there was. It's really cool to see. You would think it'd be very hard to do 15, and it is. In fact, try to do this exercise, you viewing it. It is not as easy as it sounds like at first. It was kind of fun joking around with my server about that, about how difficult this actually is. My number 15 is none other than Titania. Now, I've talked to you about this a lot, and I won't belabor it, but I have a 7-star rank to Awaken Titania. I had her during the last war season, and I was always a little bit hesitant to talk about how great she was because I was aware I was punching down a little bit, facing a lot of 6 stars, rank 4s, now 7-star rank 1s. But people are catching up. There's more and more matchups, and she's still incredible. When she first came out in my rankings tier list that I do monthly, I talked about being able to go unstoppable, unblockable, and indestructible passively. There's going to be uses for this. There's no way this isn't powerful. And then you add on the buff immunity. What we then discovered along the way was that she doesn't need her debuffs to stick. Yes, it's helpful, especially if you're doing that SB3 route. But better still, literally the day I'm putting this out, put out a compilation of her taking these various skilled defenders who are shrugging the debuffs. It is fantastic. It is fantastic. Titania could honestly move up. I have a big up arrow on Titania. I think as more people continue to pull her to 7-star, they're going to see how powerful she is. It is very, very difficult to slow her down. She is my type of champion where they are very, very good. And then they have a variety of uses that makes them also very good and usable and powerful in matchups that aren't what you intuitively immediately thought upon reading their abilities. Okay, number 14 on my server's list with 15 votes, or points really, was none other than Future Ant-Man. Fantastic champion, was on my honorable mention. I do believe will continue to climb up. I don't know if I mentioned him in my honorable mention. I do think his stock is rising. He's a fantastic champion. Now, number 14 in mine is Cosmic Ghost Rider. I'm going to go and say it. I think he does have utility. He's got the immunities. He can go unblockable. He's got Incinerate. He's got the Damnation from his signature ability. I do think that is a very, very worthwhile signature to have it just Sig 1. I've done a ton of videos on him. I have not played him much in a very, very long time, but when I do, I'm always reminded of how outrageously powerful he is. And then there's folks out there like, we always go Slayer of Gods, but I know there's a lot of people playing him. And where there's a will, there's a way with Cosmic Ghost Rider. Like, you slap on the power backs, you slap on the recoil tree, and you do enough attempts, and you eventually get it down. He has a variety of rotations. He's a phenomenal, phenomenal champion. Like I said, there's a rigidity to him that a player like me does not enjoy, but players who really enjoy him have found ways to make his rotations work. I cannot deny how powerful he is. His battlegrounds becomes more and more prominent in the game and the mode. Gets more and more generous rewards. He's phenomenal, and I know people who just build their decks knowing that they're just going to ban Cosmic Ghost Rider. Number 14 champion, I feel very, very good at that. I have him as a stable right now. We'll see where he is in December. Number 13 champion for my server was none other than Captain America Infinity War. We have a couple huge Captain America Infinity War fans on my server. They know what they're talking about. They clear a ton of content with him. I talked about him already with the honorable mention. Makes sense. I think that's, I can't say that's wrong. Let's put it that way. Number 13 champion coming in with 20 points. Now, my number 13, as you see on the screen here, is Gallon, and this is really making sense to me, right? When he first came into the game, I told you, he's outrageous, he's powerful, you're really going to want him. He has a very unique set of immunities for a cosmic champion. He's great, he's fantastic. But I also said, listen, I don't think he's going to get nerfed, and I think a lot of people are actually going to feel like he's starting to disappoint them because there were some lanes in war, and then also the Battlegrounds meta at the time when he came into the game was like making him exponentially more powerful. It was built for exactly what he was meant to destroy. And I think we're now seeing that. People still really like Gallon. They really think he's powerful, but no one's talking about how he needs to get nerfed or how he's broken or anything like that. And that's because it's a little more difficult to take these other matches. You've got to actually play a little more skilled. You have to know what you're doing. You can't just like parry medium, light, medium your way through and then one SP1 kills them. And he is still very powerful. He's my number 4 or 13 champion on this whole list. The best champions in the game. Clearly, I'm saying he's very good. But I also think he's got a downward arrow. I would not be surprised given what possibly comes our way for the rest of this year. I mean, Cabana was putting out amazing champion after amazing champion in 2023. And the game is big enough and it is complex enough, and we're being asked to do enough things that it makes sense to me that Gallon's, again, prestige within the community, I think has been on a slow and steady decline. And it might just be to the point where it's now where it accurately should be. Time is the only one that will be able to tell us on this. He's a great champion. I feel good with him. As my number 13, I do feel good with him being above CGR. But CGR has stood the test of time, while Gallon is still relatively new. And I don't think there's a champion who's had a higher peak and a very, very quick fall to where I believe they should more accurately be rated without there being any sort of nerf or new champions coming out that make what they did less powerful. He's great. I love him. I love playing him. I will probably take mine to rank 5 in the not too distant future. I got him at 13. Would not be surprised to see him not even on my top 15 though in December. My server's number 12 champion was Shang-Chi. You know how much I love Shang-Chi. Fantastic champion. I think he's coming out as a 7-star. I'm very excited for that because I think the community is going to see how powerful he is. He is phenomenal. You're going to love him. I guarantee it. All right. Now, number 12 on my list is none other than Rintra. I've bashed Rintra. So many of you have informed me that cows actually can't have horns. I still think he's a bull, but I appreciate the education I got. Thank you for sharing the knowledge. I still think he's a bull though, not a cow. Just saying. I just can't use the horns as proof. And for me, he Campo used the term, and I thought it summed it up very well, that he just is sloppy. And I know a lot of people say, well, that's playing into this whole bull mentality, right? Like you get in the corner and you get rooted, sometimes on purpose, but sometimes it's you, sometimes it's the defender, and they're hitting you and you're hitting them. It feels like a drunken brawl fight, bar fight, you know? Like you're just kind of slapping each other around, and he's a bull with horns, so he comes out of it, he's still standing, you throw your SP2, you hope it crits. He's one that people actively wish they could take SIGs out of him. And so maybe it's less that he's not good, because he is very good. I mean, I'm ranking him number 12 in the whole thing, for gosh sake. And I actually have him as stable. I'd be surprised if he's moved up or if he's moved down at the end of this year. But he's just him, and it feels like nonsense in a game where I feel like we're getting less and less nonsense out of the champions that are to be built. He's powerful, I can't deny it, but it feels nonsensical. And yeah, there's not much else to say. You're fighting the Cosmic Champion. His neutralize against him is incredibly, incredibly powerful. And he's a great defender that just feels ridiculous with how often you have to knock him down. He's Rintra. I don't think there's much else to say. Rintra's going to do Rintra things. For the 11th and final champion in this video anyway, for my servers list and mine, was actually none other than Kate Bishop. DLL is a prominent member of respect on my server, so it does not surprise me that my server is aware of how good Kate Bishop is. I keep talking about this video I'm going to put out, and I will. Just a lot of other videos to get out first. She is fantastic, and the video I'm going to put out, only really utilizing her SP1 and her heavy knockdown and her riposte mechanic. So, but that's just it, and I think that's why I like her so much. And outside of being friends with him, I think that's part of why I love DL's champion so much. Actually, as I've had to go through these thought exercises with the rankings and why I feel the way I do on these champions, is I love these champions where they are very good, they're very powerful. But then if you play them even better, if you play them the way they're asking you to play them, and you're able to do that in the matchup, you get rewarded with this extra damage, this extra utility, or this extra thing, right? And you still won't hit the highs. These champions are just designed to dominate something. Hitmonkey is one that I can go with. Lady Deathstrike against mutants is one I can go with. They're just going to dominate them, and you're rarely going to find those highs out of Kate Bishop or Absorbing Man. I guess outside of Tara. Terex is like, oh, hello, I'm here in the corner. So that is true. But that's Kate Bishop in a nutshell. And I'll get the video out and I'll talk to you about it. I actually have an arrow up on her because I want to see her in questing content. Hopefully we're going to get 8.3 soon, right? And then the refurbished map, war map, that, or the advanced, or whatever term you want to call it, that we learned about in the MCoC stream today. Very curious to see if she can be used in that and how that's going to work out. Now, she might just be a Battlegrounds monster, but that's pretty good given how important that role seems to be rewards-wise and the efforts that are being put into it. She's phenomenal. She's great. Get her at that high sig. I wish she had come out as a 7-star, but the fact that she didn't make me that much more excited about taking my 6-star up and feeling great about it. Her rebalancing information, I think, should be coming out in the next week or two. So if you're watching this and you're thinking maybe shrink yours up, maybe wait. You've waited this long. Wait to make sure that information comes out. But I really do think if she's adjusted or nerfed or rebalanced or anything like that, they'll keep the spirit of what she is alive. And I believe it's pretty clear that it was known that she was going to be able to do a significant amount of damage off of her SP1. When she first came to the game, I talked to you at length about she does her big damage. That Cold Stomp is a passive, and that is incredibly unique and rare for a skilled champion, which is another thing I really like, is if there's a skill or if there's an ability or a damage source or something like that that is unique within a class, and then the champion's good regardless or anyways with that. Oh, I love that. That is a fantastic, fantastic thing. That really sums up Kate Bishop. She's phenomenal. She's my number 11. I've got the arrow going up. My community has her at number 20, at number 11 with 20 votes. She's phenomenal. She's great. She's Kate Bishop. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're looking forward to part 2 coming out. I'll get it out in the next day or two after this one, and they will be in the playlist there. I'm very, very excited to talk to you about number 1 through number 10. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.